I'm Allie Zendrian, founder of AtoZ Communications, and this is the Brand Stories podcast. This is where we talk about everything related to marketing, branding, and public relations. This week, we had Jarrod Upton on the podcast. He discusses how firms can help build the culture that creates the brand that they want to have. Jarrod, thank you so much for being on my Brand Stories podcast today. It's been a pleasure getting to know you in your past life and then seeing your career evolve. And I'd love to hear more about what you're up to these days.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here today. Appreciate your time. I've had a bit of a journey. The last year and a half, I took a bit of sabbatical. I've written a book. It's in copy editing phase. It's called Lessons of Legacy. So be very glad to have that coming out, hopefully in the next few short months. And it's a story about life lessons, frankly, for my daughter. In the event something happened to me, what lessons would I want to pass on to her? Truths that I've learned, hard knock life lessons that you kind of learn along the way. And then as of end of last year, beginning of this year, I've launched a new company where we run on EOS, or Entrepreneur Operating Systems, frankly, helping advisory firms and other business owners be able to operate and being really clear on what their vision is, understanding their discipline and accountability for traction, and helping them to run a really healthy organization and culture.
Love that. And congratulations to you. Looking forward to when the book comes out. So one of the first questions that I ask everybody is what their favorite brand is and why.
So one of the favorite brands that I love is the Disney brand. And actually, I wrote an article on this several years ago about the Disney way. And it's all about the idea of the imagination. But with the imagination, it starts from inception, that experience that you want to leave the guest with when they come in, the first thing they experience, the first interaction that they have, all the way through, think about often the theme parks, going and seeing that. And sometimes they call it the Disney bubble. But I think from a brand standpoint, there's so many things that we can learn culturally for running our businesses about that inception point, or that inflection of how we want our members or our clients or our customers or guests, whatever you call them, to feel, not just to experience. That feeling of when they leave that experience and they leave, whether it's a transaction or relationship or service-based business, what do we want them to feel? Supported, cared for, taken care of. That feeling, I think, is so powerful that the organizations, large and small, can all learn from. I think Disney's been a great test case, and there have been certainly a lot of other ones. But from a brand experience, that's something I've always appreciated and admired.
Well, you have great taste, because actually that's my favorite brand as well. Well done. I absolutely agree with you. I mean, that kind of experience and all the steps that it takes to put that together, because you're right. At any point, if that were to break, it just sort of shatters the whole thing. So how do you help businesses create that kind of experience? How should people be looking at, not just I provide a service, but, there's an experience attached to it?
So I think it starts at the very beginning, really in the awareness side about, understanding who you are at the center. What are your core values, or what do you want to stand for? Because with the absence of core values, or understanding what your core focus is as a business, often it can fall short. And the tough thing is I see organizations that they're running and everybody's kind of got an idea of what they stand for. They may have a missional statement, but they're not really living it, on a 360 viewpoint of the way they act, the way they operate, the way they work, the way they screen their employees or their vendors, or frankly, even their clients. And so I think it starts really at the core first. But then what exudes out from the way I've worked with organizations previously and currently is thinking through, what do they want people to first see? That touch, that first sight, your brand, your colors. We're creatures of sense. So, our sense of seeing, smelling, touching, tasting, feeling. And so when you look at that from a brand experience, even in an advisory type organization or other companies, is that first sense of what do we want them to see? How do we want them to know this is a place that they can be trusted in? And so it starts in the awareness phase. But a lot of times people think about implementation from a client experience standpoint. It goes even way before that, is that very first component of what we want our clients to, or customers to feel before they even know us. Because if it's ever falls short, the term tone deaf comes to mind. It can be tone deaf. It's not authentic. And in our age today of AI and so many other things, that sense of authenticity is even more important than what it's been before. It's always important, but it's going back to the beginning of What do you see? What do you feel? What are you saying? And is there alignment there? And then that builds into what's that first meeting look like? What's the first engagement? What's their first interaction of even the first time they pick up the phone and call the office, or the first time they send an email through the website, this what's being sent back to them. What does that look like? Because those are all building blocks, or really micro that builds into a micro building block towards that experience.
Love that. So do you feel like with businesses that are falling short, is it that there's no, whether it's like a handbook or whatnot that's been created so that the message is disseminating through all the different ranks? Or is it to your point that you might think that your brand is XYZ, but actually as you live it out, it's really more like ABC?
It could be both. It just depends on where it is. I mean, is it a process issue, or what I'm hearing kind of in a data issue? Process is, what is our process or our experience? And you may have hey, this is who we think we are, but our process doesn't map exactly what we're saying. Or in the data doesn't support it from a data component standpoint. So I think it could be both of where the business is in their maturity. And frankly, in my experience, businesses also shift. They'll go through sometimes scope creep, or what they started out today, 5-10 years from now, they may look very different, in the way that they operate, or they've made an acquisition, or they've added a new product line, or whatever it is. So it could be both, but I think it always going back, and this is where, again, doing that quarterly and strategic angel planning is, are we true to our core? Going back and revisiting. Santa Ana said, those who don't study the past are doomed to relive it. Businesses that don't look back and say, are we still aligned with our brand and core identity? Often they can have scope creep or mission creep from what they started and what their focus was.
So in terms of the work that you do with businesses now, how do you take them through the process of making themselves better? Is there like a set vantage point, or can people approach you at any point in their business life journey?
So yes, I think it could be both. People certainly can approach at any point in the business life journey, because there's different needs on where relative to where they are. If you're in a startup phase, you've got different needs. You're trying to gain market share. You're trying to build customer or client base. You're trying to get that market penetration and frankly get sales. If you're 5-10 years into the business, you may be thinking about refinement and efficiency, and how are we thinking, even about maybe there's a opportunity to expand into a new market or geographic or new business segment. So the way I think about business is, a lot of times think about, if you've got kids, I've got kids, is almost a toddler, a 3-year-old. They're kind of stumbling around trying to figure it out. A business that's maybe about 10 years old, they're kind of getting into those preteen years. If they're into the 15 to 20 years, they're maybe a little bit of an adolescence phase, not quite a mature business. So the application, you can go through all of those. And the way that I've seen very effective way to approach is, start with the end in mind, and frankly understanding, coming back, what's our vision, how are we tracking towards that discipline, accountability. And so understanding that, documenting it, and then going through a space learning process with an organization to understand where they're at, what's the shared accountability, and who are the core people responsible or accountable to that. And so it can be at any inflection point in the business's growth journey. It's just thinking about where they are and understanding where they're going. And there's a great book for the audience called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, Your Mind, Binder, Grinder Mentality. You've got different points of need. It's just understanding where they are. As a toddler, they're learning to walk. As a teenager, they're getting ready to drive. They're, same learning that needs to happen, but different application.
Yeah. Well, and speaking to our kids, although I'm sure that yours is fabulous, hopefully they're not hitting those teenage angsty years either. So may the teenagehood be lovely.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we deal with a little bit of that from time to time. So I think and again, I dealt with it when I was a teenager, and I've had peers that have the same. We talk about the same stuff relative to the age of our kids.
Yeah. And in my case, so my kids being a little bit younger, I feel like it's the forming of yourselves. So I definitely relate to what you're saying there. It really is like the life cycle of a person. So are there specific, whether it's types of businesses or size of businesses, that you feel like are best to work with you?
So I'd say anywhere from 5 to 250 employees is pretty broad gap, because the process that I go through, called EOS, is our entrepreneur operating system. We take an organization, I look at the value component. Are they growth minded, but is it intentional growth or purposeful growth? Are they open and honest with themselves and wanting feedback, wanting help? Some of the most challenging business or engagement or consulting experiences I've had are businesses, they need help, but they're not willing to accept it. The two things I've found hard and with working with leaders is the willing to ask for help, but then also the willing to receive it. If they're not willing to receive that and make those changes, sometimes they're hard. That's where things tend to fall short. They're really not probably a good fit, or maybe it's not the right time for them right now. Thinking through where they are, but as long as you're taking someone, whether they're wanting to crawl, walk, run, sprint, etc., you still can do application for them based on their growth. Because the goal is, if you think about a coach or trainer, facilitator, is how do you get from A to B, and how do we get to A to B really effective and efficiently? There's different tools I would use for someone that's startup mode versus someone who's running a really mature business that's got more complexity and divisions and people. So there's different applications that got different tools in the toolbox to pull them out relative to where they are. I mean, it's similar to what I think about like a house analogy. When you're younger, you may need an apartment, but when you get married, if people are blessed to be married or have kids, they need to have more space. And ultimately, maybe kids move out, maybe we contract a bit because we don't need all the space and the overhead. Businesses go through a very similar life cycle, but they still need plumbing and electricity and the roof over their head. So you still need the basic mechanics of running that. And you're still going to need process and people and data and understanding, mitigating through the issues of what you've got as you move through it. So we can pick them up anywhere they're at their growth period, assuming they're entrepreneurial minded and wanting to grow, to they're willing and open and honest and need and aware that they need the change and willing to put forth the work to do that.
So you've been very fortunate in your career. You've learned, I'm sure, from a lot of great minds and had a lot of great brands affiliated with you between United Capital Group and Herbers and Company. How would you advise somebody, those are big brand names in and of themselves. How do you have your own sort of personal brands that then can carry with you no matter where you go, in addition to the overarching brand of where you're working?
Sure. Great question. I'd say it's going to come back to reputation and engagement. It's the quality of work that me as an individual that I am able to put forth. It's doing really great work, offering really great value, and being supportive and helpful. I mean, one of the things I love about EOS, it's a help first mindset, help first community, and it's not about what I can get out of it. It's what I can take and carry forward and help others to be able to accomplish. So I think within that, my brand specifically, it's helping first, but then specific to historical brands, it's also your body of work. Where have you come from? What type of experiences that you've had, and being able to have done really great work that you can talk with intelligence, and you've got competence and confidence to be able to deliver because you've lived it. You've made, and frankly, it doesn't always have to be perfect. I certainly have had challenges or issues or mistakes kind of along the way in the career, but what have you done to overcome them? Some of the most successful people I've worked with, it wasn't about that they were perfect. It's about how they overcame a difficult situation and persevered out of that. And that resonates a lot of times with businesses. And we went through that with other organizations, United Capital, Herbers, all going through a growth cycle as we're moving forward. And it's change. I mean, change is a constant. So how do we respond to that? But in my brand specifically, to answer your question, pointedly, is really it's about engagement, helping first, and also finding the right types of relationships that resonate with me. Not everyone's going to resonate with me, and they may resonate with someone else, and that's great. It's finding them the right solution that they need.
That's very sage advice. And I'm thinking of it even in terms of, I think I might have shared with you, I'm adjuncting this semester, teaching an intro to PR class, and we were starting to give career advice, people trying to figure out their direction in life. It seems like it is that, like, look, just like get on the ground and do good work. You can stumble and go in between different careers and whatnot, but so long as you're a good and helpful person and you're doing the work, it all adds itself up.
That's right. And as a plug, if I can ever be a resource for you, happy to do that. I love helping next gen, individuals as they work and expand. And actually also have, I think I may have shared, aspirations of, higher ed. I am going to be starting my PhD program in the fall at Texas Tech in their School of Financial Planning. So again, have a passion for teaching, among other things as well, and in helping the next gen, and I will say one of the biggest blessings I've had have been wonderful mentors and peers who have invested in me. And I would encourage anybody listening, that's a wonderful give back, and often you will get more out of it than your time of what you're giving to the next generation, and you're helping. And I found often that they deeply value it, and especially if you're helping that next generation.
Yeah. Thank you, and thank you for the work that you're doing, because you're right. It's hugely valuable to financial advisors. This is an interesting climate in that we have these huge mega aggregators. It seems like there are a lot of smaller firms. We're at a point allegedly when a lot of advisors are going to be retiring in the next 10 years. If
Mhm.
you're an advisor owner right now, what are the big like business things that you think that you need to keep focused on right now?
So, big focus things from an advisory community is one, be hyper engaged with your clients. But start with team first, because they're the ones that live and breathe your brand, your experience, and they are also the ones that are serving your clients, hopefully admirably, wonderfully. So, serving them, supporting your team first, and doubling down on culture. Culture is king. I've seen so many individuals leave, not because they were getting paid unfairly, not because they didn't have great relationships with clients, is because of culture. So I think, to retain and engage through this next inflection point of growth and change, culture is key. Two is look for opportunities for your people to participate. They're smart people. They're engaged. They want to add value. So look for opportunities for them to participate and help you to grow as you're moving forward. I mean, we hear a lot about AI, and so AI is going to take over. We've been talking about the robo advisor for coming up 15, almost 20 years now, and it's not put out advisors because it's that human component, it's that authenticity component. I've found that clients and relationships, people want to do business with other people and do good things with other people. Where I do think AI, and this is I think an inflection point for advisory firms, is how do you harness it to be more efficient, more effective in what you're doing, how you're doing it, your client follow up. Because when Excel came out, I mean, and that didn't put advisory out of business. When we had different software planning applications that may have replaced Excel, that didn't put advisors out of business. It just made them more efficient, and they had a more robust set of tools in their toolbox. So it may sound, hey, I've heard this is rinse repeat, but it's still true. Culture is king. Double down on that, and then think about your efficiency components, because your clients will expect it from a service standpoint.
I love that, because you're absolutely right. It seems like no matter, you could double somebody's salary basically, and it still comes down to culture, really, which is interesting. But so for those firms who might be saying culture, we put our heads down and we do the work and we serve the clients, and then that's it. What would you say to them who might wonder if they even have a culture or what their culture is?
So the first step is validation. I think there's some options you can do. You can do an employee engagement survey. How engaged are your people? If any of the more seasoned advisors may recall the cartoon called Dilbert. In the Dilbert cartoon, if you've been around for a while, there was a study that was read, I think it's in the Harvard Business Review, is the more Dilbert cartoons that were in a cubicle office space, the more dysfunctional a culture is, because people can relate. They can relate to the dysfunctionality. So understanding some of those little nuances, or a little bit those little tendencies, are your people, are they there because it's a paycheck, or are they there because they're passionate, they're engaged, they're volunteering? So I think an engagement survey could certainly be one option. Also having depending on the size of the firm, asking your people the tough question: are we who we say we are? Do we live out our values? Do we have our values? And is everybody committed to them? Do they know them? I would say no more than 3 to 5, maybe 5 to 7 max in your core values that you have in there. Are we actually true to them? Is it do as I say, don't do as I do type of mentality, or do I live that out? Because when I break values, I break trust with my team and possibly with clients. And so that's a way to, one, validate, are we true to who we say we are? And if we say we're all about the money, or our people should resonate. If we're all about giving back, but we never give anything back, how does that resonate with our people? So I think that's the validations component, and then being willing to ask the hard question, but being open and honest to get the tough feedback. Because I've seen so many leaders, they don't want to have the hard conversation with their employees because it's coming to realization, maybe we're not as good as we think we are. Maybe we're not doing what we said we started out to do. And I see that happen all the time, unfortunately. And you get that scope creep, mission creep. The hope, it can be corrected, but there's work behind that has to be implemented to make those course corrections.
So Is there ever a point where it's just sort of too late, where it's just so far gone and whatnot that you can't rehabilitate? Or do you think, people can put in the time and effort so long as they're willing to?
I always like to hope that there is an opportunity that they can rehabilitate. It just depends on how hard they want to work. I hate to say that you ever give up, and then depending on the audience, a owner, leader, someone who has real stake in the game versus employee may say it's already done. I'm already out. If they've become complacent and that employee or team member is they're not engaged, atrophy has now set into the culture. There may be some time we need to bring in different talent, change, unless that person is willing to say, I'm willing to take a chance. I'm willing to engage, but it takes two. It takes the leadership, and as goes the leadership or leadership team, so goes the rest of the organization. Yep. So it starts at the top. So the leadership team or leaders of an organization have to have an open eyes look at themselves, be willing to take feedback. And frankly, if the organization is suffering, it's a direct reflection of leadership. If the organization is thriving, it's a direct reflection of leadership. And I know that's hard sometimes for leaders to hear, but it's got to start with them, and they've got to be living those values and making sure the team is aligned with those values. And if they're not, then that's where you start seeing other challenges persist. So I'm always hopeful if a leader or leadership teams are willing to put in the effort, and that may mean that they need different talent. Sometimes they need to have turnover to get course correct, to get reset.
Yep. So speaking of leadership, it's great that you're putting out this book, and I feel like that's an act of leadership in and of itself. If you don't mind giving us a little bit of a preview, what are some of the things that you would hope that people would take away from it?
So the audience is not necessarily business application. I've got another one in the works. I'm already started for that down the road. I'll hold that for another podcast. But this one, the title of it is called Lessons of Legacy. And the point of it is it's certainly ones you can use in business, or you could use with your kiddos or either family members, is if something were to happen to me tomorrow, what lessons would I want to pass on to my daughter? And I had the privilege to be able to interview both of my grandparents who are in their early 90s, several of my family members, and then a collection of my own stories. These are, some of them are biblical truths, some of them are character traits, some of them, like I said, are knucklehead moments from my own life of what learning could we pass on about doing the right thing, say what you mean what you say, following through, plan your work your plan. These are all, they're, you can almost say they're, colloquialisms to some degree, tried and tested. Some of them are timeless that you can say that could be applied, but they're a collection of my family's stories for the intent of my daughter, of something I'm hoping that when she reads it at 14, at 24, at 34, if she's blessed to have her own family and children at some point, it will be something that will mean different things to her at different points through her life and her career. And it's just like if I've read a great book and I read it 10 years ago, I've got different experiences and different life now than I did then. So I may pick up different nuggets because we're a collection of our memories and our experiences. So really, that's what I hope that a reader or audience member would be able to get from that book. So hoping to get that published out in the next few months, and I'll keep you informed when that's ready to go.
Please. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And what a gift to be able to give to your daughter, because, I feel like we all, if we have kids, impart that wisdom, and you say the things every day, but you never know what gets retained, what went in one ear and out the other. So having that embodiment of where it is, and you can just always go back to it and look at it, is beautiful. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you very much.
Of course. Well, best of luck to you in your new venture. I'm super excited for all the business growth and insights that you're going to be able to give to people, and looking forward to hearing more when the books come out.
Likewise. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's been a blessing. Great connecting with you this morning, and look forward to keeping you informed on how things progress. Likewise. Thank you.
Thank you. Great job.